Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I'm your host, Al Richards. I want to share something with you guys. Do you guys look at yourself as a survivor? A lot of us go through a lot of stuff in our life, some worse than others. You guys see a lot of our guests who have come on and they've had a lot of bad things happen to them. How easy would it be for you to rebuild your life after living on the streets, after battling addiction? Which direction would you go? Who would you reach out to? I mean, for me, watching what my wife went through, we don't know really what direction to go, right? We're always looking for help. Well, today's guest, Destiny Garcia, is here to help us answer these questions. Destiny, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and it's a blessing. This is the second time you've been on the show. We had you on our live show to talk about Clean Slate Utah. Right. And I just want to let our listeners know, Destiny just got done doing Clean Slate Utah, this event that was at the Vivint Event Center. And she killed it. It was her very first event that she put on. We were talking about it before the show, and she was saying how hectic and everything was, which I can imagine. Mm-hmm. But girl, you put on one heck of an event.
Thank you.
You should be proud of yourself.
I'm proud now that it's over.
Yeah, right?
But it was a lot of work, but
yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, and it was so awesome to be a part of that. So thank you for reaching out to us and giving us that opportunity. Met some new people, made some new relationships, especially from the U of U. Gosh, we had a great conversation with them, and they're wanting now to connect with us, and which is great. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's really our community that showed up. So I just made the emails and the calls, and you guys all showed up. So that part was easy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And we are joined here today with my lovely wife, Janan. So thank you for being here with us again today.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
And so, gosh, Destiny, you've gone through a lot. Now, I know you shared just a little bit when you were here doing the live show, and you have been a huge voice in the addiction world. And, I mean, you're getting in front of Congress. You're getting up here on the hill, like we like to call it here in Salt Lake, right up on the hill. And I'm hoping one day I have an opportunity to get up there too, because I am really now wanting to fight, our laws need to change.
Yep.
Some things need to happen. So our audience knows a little bit more about you. I mean, share just a tidbit and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I am a woman in long-term recovery from substance misuse disorder. I was arrested during Operation Rio Grande and got sober in 2017. So since then, I have just been trucking along forward, which has been hard because you don't know what are the right choices to make when you're in the choice, right? So I've just been making these choices, hoping that it works out, and everything has worked out so beautifully for me. So I am the executive director of Clean Slate Utah. Before that, I worked in the Salt Lake County Mayor's office for 5 years. I don't know how much you want me to go. I can keep going.
Oh, we would like it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want me to start with my story?
Yeah,
if you'd like to,
I was in a really abusive relationship for 7 or 8 years. And during that relationship, I was going to the emergency rooms for fractured eye sockets, broken nose, teeth through my lip. He hit me with a car once. And I was getting prescribed pain pills. And I walked out of there with Percocets, with anxiety meds, muscle relaxers, and I just kept going back. But what I didn't realize at the time is that I was also not only numbing my physical pain, but I was numbing my emotional pain, my mental pain.
Right.
And it took a lot of years of therapy to realize that I was in an abusive relationship, but there were times where I was the abuser myself. I was the aggressor myself. I was the manipulator myself. I fed into that lifestyle just as much as he did. I got hurt more because he was stronger than I was.
Yeah.
But I was just as much part of that toxicity than he was. So when I decided that I was going to leave him finally, and I remember this day very vividly, I went to McDonald's and I forgot to order him oatmeal. And I didn't check the bag. And when I got home, I got my butt handed to me. And
for no oatmeal.
Yeah, because I was supposed to order him oatmeal, and either I forgot or they didn't put it in the bag. And And I remember like my daughter in the background screaming, "Stop hitting my mom, stop hitting my mom." And I left that day. So I left, I had 2 black eyes. My teeth had gone through my lip. My mom had picked me up, and we were going to put everything that I owned into my car. And my son, I went to go get the stuff out of the house, and the doors were locked. And we don't share any kids together. I had 2 kids prior to him. And I remember when I picked up my son from school, he said, "Mom, I knew this was going to happen one day. I always leave my bedroom window open." So that's how I got into the house. And my son was in 8th grade. So he climbed through the window, unlocked the door, and I was able to fill up my car with whatever I could and left. When I left, I went back to my mom's house, and I had the perfect opportunity to change my life. But I was extremely addicted to pain pills. And when I left him, I left the money, I left everything behind. I took whatever fit in the car, and that was it. I enrolled in college for criminal justice, and I'm going to college every night, addicted to pain pills, buying pain pills, going to the hospital, getting more pain pills. The doctors knew me. I was there all the time. And on break time, I was going to the bathroom to smoke meth to keep me awake while I was in college class, as the detective was teaching the class.
Right.
I ended up getting arrested for shoplifting and never graduating. But I had that perfect opportunity, but I was so completely broken, mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, I was with this man for 8 years, and abuse doesn't just happen overnight. It's very, very gradual.
Right.
So he had broke me down to where I wasn't visiting my family. I didn't have any friends. I couldn't have any money unless I was trying to get $5 cash back and lost a receipt so he wouldn't know.
Right.
Things like that. So it was really toxic. When my mom found out that I was doing meth and I was still doing the opiates, she kicked me out. Which at the time I was extremely angry and was like, "You don't love me, you're just going to kick me out." But in hindsight, it was the best thing that she ever did. She kicked me out. I went to the street. I met another man who did heroin. And that was all she wrote for me. And he was very abusive as well. So fast forward 4.5, 5 years, I'm homeless, shoplifting every single day to support my habit, running from my abuser nightly almost, and then I get arrested on Operation Rio Grande. So I knew when I was arrested that I didn't want to be an addict shooting up in the park, selling the shoes on my feet to get high. I knew that, but I just didn't know how to get the help. And so when I was arrested, and I remember her name was Agent Pollock. She works for AP&P. Because if you remember Operation Rio Grande, they had all the police forces out. They had Highway Patrol, they had all the AP&P, they had the police departments. Everybody was deployed in that area. And I remember her handcuffing me after she found like syringes in my bra and knives in my pocket because I was a homeless heroin addict. She said, "If you want help when you get to jail, ask for it. Because right now, because of this operation, there's so much funding." So that stuck in my head. So when I got into jail, it was the first time I ever been in jail, and I was content. And I wasn't calling to get bailed out. I wasn't trying to get bailed out. I was fine being in jail. And then I got an assessment in jail by a woman named Noella Sudbury. You know Noella? Noella is the Clean Slate Utah founder. So she worked at the Criminal Justice Services for Salt Lake County. And the mayor at the time, Ben McAdams, was the one that was pushing this operation. So she worked for Ben. I cried because she's my biggest mentor today. So she's the founder of Clean Slate Utah. She's the very first person that I met. And I was in jail. She wasn't in jail. Let me make that clear. She gave me my assessment in jail. And then I was able to go to Odyssey House. And I remember going to Odyssey House and like, do I run? I'm sitting at the admissions building and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should just run. I'm not going to be able to do this. This is scary. Change is hard. I'm like, I should run.
Let's get you a tissue. Is there a tissue there, please, so we can get...
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
But I decided I was going to stay. And so when I was in jail, like I called my family and told them I'm going to go to this program. I'm going to go to this program. But when they picked me up from jail, they never let my family know that they moved me from jail to the program. So my family's out on the street looking for me, calling every treatment center. They're like, where is she? We don't know where she's at. She hasn't called us. She's not in jail no more. My brother knew somebody who worked at Odyssey House, and he kept calling and calling and calling. And they finally pulled me aside and said, you need to call your family. They will not stop calling. So I finally went into the office and I called my son. My son was 18. And he said, I'm so proud of you. That's all I had to hear.
Wow.
He's like, Mom, I'm so proud of you for going. And you didn't run. I'm so glad that you're there. That's all it took for me. That day forward, I did whatever I had to do. I stood out of the cliques at Odyssey House. I stood away from the guys at Odyssey House. And I just flew through the program. So when it comes time to transition from inpatient to outpatient, I was the very first person who successfully completed inpatient treatment that was arrested on Operation Rio Grande and was going to use their very first Salt Lake County Sober Living pilot program voucher. So I used their voucher, I go to Sober Living, and because of that, they're like, we want to do a press release with you. Will you do a press release? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to do a press release. I don't know if I want to get in front of the cameras and tell the world I'm a heroin addict. I stole. I'm a thief. And what is my family going to think? And what kind of judgment is my family going to get if I do that?
Yeah.
And so I talked to my family. My son is amazing. Is so amazing. He goes, Mom, if you don't do that, I will be a bit embarrassed and ashamed of you. If you get in front of those cameras, imagine how many people you can help.
Wow.
Do it. So I did it. And when I say a press release, so I'm like newly in recovery. I don't have any teeth. I have track marks up and down my arm still because I'm only like 4 months clean, you know? And I have like this temporary tooth kit I got on Amazon to cover up the holes in my mouth. And so I agreed to do the press release, and they come to my house, and it's every news station and every newspaper station inside of my Sober Living house. On top of that, it was the mayor and all the elected officials, and I was like, holy shit. Oh, can I say shit?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Holy crap. Holy crap. Like, I was terrified, you know? Holy crap, I was terrified. And I thought the mayor at the time was a woman. I had no idea it was Ben McAdams. It's the first time I ever met Ben.
Yeah.
So I meet him, and I'm like, where's the woman mayor, you know? And they're like, no, this is the mayor. So I met him, and I did the press release. It was released everywhere. And I thought at that time, oh, they just want a face to put to their operation.
Right.
But as the time went on, after I did that, the mayor and Noella Sudbury, Ben McAdams and Noella Sudbury kept reaching out saying, have you found a job yet? Like, what's going on? What are you struggling with? What do you need? I'm like, well, I got a job, and then they let me go because of my background. And then they call like a couple of weeks later. How's the job going? Well, you know, I got funding from Workforce Services to work at this job, but they ran my background and they let me go.
Sounds familiar.
And I kept doing this over and over and over again. I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, I find out that I'm newly pregnant by the guy that was the heroin addict that I was with. And I'm like, because he had just got out of prison the same week I had got out of treatment. And so, of course, I go over there thinking, well, maybe he's going to stay sober. He don't stay sober. I do. He goes back to prison. I find out I'm pregnant. And I'm like, okay, so I'm pregnant, 38 years old, 37 years old, in Sober Living, can't get a job. What am I going to do? That's when they called and said, you know, we have an opening in the mayor's office, and we want you to apply. I'm like, in the mayor's office? And they remind you, I'd gotten jobs and let go, got jobs and let go. And I'm like, I don't know. So I applied, and they gave me all these tests, and they ended up hiring me. And what it was is that Ben McAdams was going around the Salt Lake County asking employers, hire people in our specialty drug court, the Operation Rio Grande drug court. Hire some people. Can you commit to hiring 2 people in your company? And he was meeting with employers, and somebody probably asked him, like, who have you hired? So he hired me.
Right.
So he hired me in 2018 to be the front desk receptionist. And the very first day, I, didn't even want to show up. I was like, I can't do this. And before this, I had a job. Before I met my abuser, I had my own place. I was working my own job. I was raising my own kids. I knew I had skills, but you forget all of that when you're in addiction.
Right.
I almost didn't show up. I was terrified. But I showed up, and everybody in the mayor's office never once, still to this day, ever treated me like an addict. They were always like, what do you need? What do you need to learn? Let me teach you how. And I was there from 2018 until 6 months ago when I left. I got promoted when I was there. But while this is going on, I'm struggling, right? I'm like, okay, I need to get out of Sober Living. I can't have a baby in Sober Living. So what am I going to do? I'm going around looking for apartments and getting denied because of my background. Yeah. I couldn't get it. And I'm making decent money at a government job in the county mayor's office, but nobody would still. And I'm putting Ben McAdams down as a reference on applications, on housing, and nobody still would let me rent there. Matter. It still didn't matter. They wouldn't let me rent there. They wouldn't give me a job. And so my son at that point said, well, you've been sober for a year. I'll move in with you. So he signed with me and he moved in with me. Which is a blessing because my son hated me for a lot of years. And I also have an adult daughter who still hates me. So even after all the work I've done and put in, my adult daughter still will not talk to me to this day. And they were separated. So my son went with my mom when I was in my addiction, and she went with her dad. And it's on her own time People heal differently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I destroyed that relationship. I hurt her. I chose drugs. I did all these things. So now I just have to be like, when you're ready, I'll be here.
Yeah.
Like I can't push it anymore. So I got an apartment. I had a new baby. And during this time, I'm being followed by the documentary crew. So there's this documentary crew out of California that was going nationwide to different treatment centers for people who, for about the opioid epidemic. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for people who had suffered through addiction, but has came out on the other side. So oftentimes you see documentaries that are very dark. Mm-hmm. They show all the addiction, and then at the end, you see like just a blurb of if they stood clean or not. I'm sure you guys know what show I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's lots of shows like that. It's not very often you see an addiction show that is on the other side. So I agreed to be in the show, and they started following me around. But once they knew I was working in the mayor's office, they're like, oh, look at this connection between this recovering addict and the mayor of the county.
Right.
And like at this time, the mayor's coming to family functions. I'm going with him to speak at places. We spoke to the Trump administration for funding for treatment. Like I was going with him using my voice and advocating, and they saw that relationship and they're like, this is a cool relationship. So I'm in it. Former Mayor Ben McAdams, he was a congressman. Mm-hmm. Sim Gill's in it, our district attorney, and then Mayor Jenny Wilson is in it. And they just follow us around and they show these relationships. And that's when I was able to go testify in front of Congress. So they showed a 30-minute clip of my documentary in front of Congress members. And then we had like a panel discussion. It was so cool. It was so cool to think that that's what my life was that day,
How were you feeling about it at that time? If I could just pause you for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, what was going on inside you at that time?
Well, I was overwhelmed, but I really think that all of that was one of the main reasons why I continued to stay sober.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oftentimes it could be the reason why someone relapses, but I'm like, okay, I'm in the public eye. I'm always on the news because I'm working in the mayor's office using my voice. Now this document, like I've got to keep going. I got to keep going. But in hindsight, after doing the documentary and then seeing it afterwards, I seen something in myself that I had never seen before, watching myself. Like most people don't get to watch themselves and their story and see like, oh crap, that's me. Like I did that, but it was overwhelming, and it was hard to be filmed. And then I gave birth on film. I mean, only from the waist up, but I gave birth on film, and I didn't even want to do that. My son's like, do it, Mom. My son's like pushing me the whole entire way. Like, come on. He still is my biggest supporter, and he's still the only one that really is like, what are you going to lose if you don't do it? What are you going to lose if you do it? Like, do it.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. It's not easy to be in the public, to recover from drug addiction and to recover in the public eye. Yeah. It's not easy at all.
Oh, I bet.
But I will say that every single time that I'm on a show, a news story, a podcast, anything, somebody always reaches out after. Either somebody I used with, or somebody who is new in recovery, or somebody who is looking for recovery. And to me, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. So yeah.
I don't even know where I was at now.
So
Good job.
you were So you were at where you're still doing all this public speaking, and you're getting your voice out there, right? And now the media is starting to see this connection, which I'm seeing why they would see that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, my mom always told me, man, that big mouth is going to get you in trouble. And it did. It did for so many years. I got beat up for so many years. I got arrested for so many years because of my big mouth. But now I've just learned after years of therapy and going through the trauma that I've learned how to use my voice, my big voice, in a positive way.
Right.
And I do. I use it everywhere. But it's never easy. It's never easy. I've been on the news probably, I can't even tell you how many times. And speaking at all these different functions, it's never easy. And that tells me that it's the right thing to do, because it's not easy.
Yeah,
because it's not easy.
You are in a video, I believe, that Odyssey House uses for their... Oh, I don't know what it is exactly, but I was at Odyssey House for a while, and I believe seeing you on a video. Randall Carlisle's on there, you're on there. It's all just talking about the good things about how cleaning up this.
I wonder if you're talking about the documentary. So since Odyssey House was featured in the documentary,
right.
Every one of the houses watches the film.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember seeing you then, and this was, what, 2020?
Somewhere around there.
The middle of 2020, probably, that I saw this video, and I was in there, and I remember thinking, the stigma again that we were talking about, yeah, somehow she got her way in there, and she wasn't as bad as I thought, you know, I would think. And I remember thinking, though, at the same time, like, it's inspiring to me. But then at the same time, I had my issues about Odyssey House, so it was like really hard for me to look at you in a, like, as a mentor or as a example, because everything that had to do with Odyssey House, for me, I didn't like.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do good in Odyssey House. It wasn't my kind of thing. But I do remember you from then. I remember you. That's the first time I ever saw you. First time I ever knew who you were. And I thought, well, she's got to have something special going on. You know?
I think it's my mouth.
Yeah.
Like
My
your
mom,
said.
that mouth I got from my mom, man.
Yeah.
I had been silenced and beaten and overlooked for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And I still struggle with those things today. I mean, I still like struggle with what type of people am I letting in my life? Is it comfortable? Because if it's comfortable, it's probably the wrong person.
Right.
If it's uncomfortable, then it's probably something healthy.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that within myself. Like, if that's my body telling me, that's what you know. That comfort, that toxicity, the people, the men that you're hanging out with, and if it's comfortable, that's because it's bad. That's what you know. It took a lot of years. And I think I still struggle with that today with the people I allow in my life. I'm like, is this healthy or is this not healthy? And what does healthy look like? Right? And I have no idea what healthy looks like. No idea. I just know that I have strong boundaries, which is really hard.
Yeah.
I have to have boundaries with family members, with men, with everybody in my life. I have to say no. And that's hard for me too, because I was such a people pleaser, and especially in my relationships. I'm the type of person that gets in a relationship with a bad man, and everything about me and my life revolves around him.
Yeah.
So when I left that relationship, I'm like, what color do I like? What kind of eggs do I like?
Right.
I'm going to cook these eggs the way that I like, and I'm going to burn them because I'm not going to get in trouble for them. You know, like I had to learn who I was all over again, and that wasn't easy. For sure. But I think when I went into Odyssey House, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. I surrendered. I knew I wanted something different.
Right. And I think that's so important with addicts and stuff trying to get into recovery. You have to be ready. If it could be the best program in the world, it could be the best mentors you've ever had in your life, but if you're not ready, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, and it's just stuff from what I'm learning by having guests on like yourself, Destiny. I had the privilege to tour Red Barn yesterday. They called me up and they said, "Hey, your name's been coming up. Would like to invite you to come out and take a look at our place and hear more about us." And man, I jumped on. I'm like, absolutely, because I've heard amazing things. And I met Johnny Farmer at Fit to Recover ribbon cutting, and both the gentlemen that I was speaking with Nicholas and Anthony, they shared their stories. Each one of them shared their stories. They gave me an opportunity to share my story. And they were saying the same thing. It's like, yeah, when we came here, probably, I think Nicholas said, yeah, it took me through the first year. He's like, I don't know how many times I was ready to walk out the flipping door, you know, and it's finding that self-worth again, right? Like, I am worth something. Because, again, they kept wanting to fall back what was comfortable, which was the old life. And it takes time. You know, I think for any of us, whether we battle with addiction or not, you know, I'm working on things, quite a few things, a handful of things that I've done all my life that I don't want to do anymore.
I think everybody needs a therapy.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
And I don't want to be there, right? I'm done. I'm done being stuck there because it's not healthy and it's not getting me to where I want to go. Right. And my gosh, is it hard.
So hard.
And that's another thing that yesterday we were talking about at my work, is that everybody, I think me and Al both agree on this. We've talked about it before, but we believe that everybody in this world, no matter if you've ever used or, you know, if you're the worst user in the world, needs a 12-step kind of program. I'm not saying that everybody should do the 12 steps. That's not, it's not for everybody.
But there's steps of growth.
The steps,
Yes, a healthy
yes, the
program.
steps of growth that you get from a 12-step type program is second to none. There's nowhere else you can get that. And everybody in this world needs it because everybody is afraid of change.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. And everybody's gone through some type of trauma.
Right.
So you don't just wake up and think, I'm going to be a heroin addict today.
Yeah.
Or I want to grow up and be a homeless heroin addict. You've gone through something in your life that
Right.
you've had to numb.
Yeah.
That starts the addiction, you know?
Right.
It's
Totally agree.
I think trauma is the gateway.
Oh, yeah.
Trauma is the gateway.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with that. So you get hired, mayor's office, you're doing all these press releases, you're being videotaped, filmed everywhere you go. You are now really a well-known advocate for recovery people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I just...
I'm passionate about it.
The blessing for you, it's like your path was meant to go exactly the way it was supposed to go, because however you want to look at your higher power, I don't know what your belief is, I'm looking at it as God, that God knew this is your path. He put everything in place for you.
Yeah.
And now look what you were accomplishing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
and I think
gosh.
I still had obstacles during that, right? So
Right.
like my daughter's dad, I have my daughter, my little one, and her dad gets out of prison. I'm like, oh, I'm going to let him parole to my house.
Oh, jeez.
There was the comfort again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple months in, he's getting high. I have to kick him out. All this is on film in the documentary. And I'm like, like people think that I had this straight path and it was great. But I had a lot of bumps in the road. I had a lot of fighting with myself on what was the right decision, what was the wrong decision, who to
Right.
hold boundaries with, what is the right thing to do. On the day that I don't want to get up, do I get up and go to work or do I call in? I mean, these are the internal struggles that I struggled with the whole entire time, but people don't see that when they see the news story. When they
Right.
see the documentary, they think,
Right.
oh, she was just given an opportunity. And I was given an opportunity, but it was what I did with that opportunity that got
Yeah.
me to today. Like I could have not shown up. I could have been so embarrassed of not having any teeth and having track marks and being skinny and feeling unworthy. Like I had done all this work on the inside in treatment, but the outside still appeared to be the addict
Right.
because of the way that I looked. You know,
Right.
it took a lot of years of showing up anyways.
Yeah.
Showing up anyways and doing things that I was terrified to do.
Yeah. If we could go back just a little bit, that's something that I really struggle with still, and I'm over 2 years sober. Is boundaries.
They're so
Help
hard.
me out with that. How did you finally get the right boundaries that work for you, and how did you? How are you strong enough to do those boundaries, especially with family members? That's where I struggle the most.
Yeah, it's
is
hard.
setting those boundaries with family members.
What I learned is that if I'm setting a boundary and it's hurting me, it's the right boundary.
Okay.
That's what I learned. If it's hurting me and I feel like I'm doing something wrong, then it's the right boundary for me. Because I'm
Okay.
such a people pleaser.
Right.
I want to help.
Yep.
So if I knew I was telling you no and it was going to hurt me, it's because my people pleasing was coming out. But I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die. I didn't want my kids to not have a mom anymore.
Right.
I didn't want to sit there and feel like they're better off without me anymore. And I remember being in those dark places. Mm-hmm. And I'm a new mom again. I have a 4-year-old and I have a chance to.
She's adorable, I just have to say.
She's my I feel like she's my sobriety gift.
Yeah.
'Cause her dad's not around. He's in prison. I don't have any communication with him. And that probably was the hardest boundary I had to set. Mm-hmm. Because I can see the potential in him, right? And I knew that he can be more than what he is, but he wasn't doing it himself. And so I
Right.
had to hold a boundary with him and his family members that are toxic and cut them out completely, which is hard.
Yeah.
Which is really hard. I've had to hold boundaries with family members. I've had to hold them with people that I love, that I've let live with me, that have relapsed, that I have to kick out that very same day, and then never speak to them again because they're using. I mean, if they reached out for help, I obviously would help anybody.
Yeah.
But I can't contribute to the lifestyle. So
right.
anything that was taking me back to the life I used to live or felt familiar or comfortable, I had to hold a boundary with. And it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's the hardest thing I think I've had to do was hold boundaries.
I think it's, you know, and it really does fall on both sides, right? Because I heard a lot that when I'd go to AA meetings with Janan, you know, and they talk about boundaries, or I'd go see her when she was in one of the recovery centers and they're talking about boundaries, not realizing that I needed to set boundaries as well. You know, we've had people come on the show and say, if you put the addict in recovery and not the family as well, there's a good chance that when they're done with recovery, they're going to relapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, if you put the addict in recovery and you put the family in recovery, there's a better chance of success. And I am a firm believer
I believe that as
now.
well.
A firm believer, because we're lost. We don't understand. You know, and
it's addicting for you to cater to the addict.
yeah, right.
It's an addicting
Yeah.
behavior. Even it might not be the drugs, but it's codependency, and it's
Right.
addicting as well.
That's why one of my guest co-hosts told me once, you were addicted to your wife's addiction, and he nailed it. I was, you know, and I just recently shared my story of my addiction. You know, my 8-year weekend alcohol and cocaine use. And I was a guest on a podcast here just a couple days ago, and they were asking, you know, if I went to recovery and all that, and I'm like, no, you know, I just said, I'm just done, and it just kind of worked out that way for me. However, I also,
Which is rare.
well, it's rare, but
yeah.
maybe not in a sense, because in my eyes, I wasn't an addict.
Yeah, because it was a
Why?
weekend thing.
Because I only did it 2 days a week, right?
Well, and also I
So-
think you did go through your own treatment or recovery,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
as you were trying to fix me, which is not possible, you were trying to better yourself and trying to figure out how you could be a better husband to
Better
me,
supporter and-
better support
yeah.
to
It's
me.
a family
and so I
disease.
think that
Yes.
you really were working on your own recovery in your own way.
Good way of looking at it,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
I mean, if you include your family members and your children and your wife and everything in the recovery, that's what I did. I included my family and everything, especially my son.
Yeah.
So my son has spoken with me, and he's like, he's so for recovery, you know, and he tells me, Mom, you are like Michael Jordan to me. I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, you came into this recovery game and you are changing it. And now
Yeah,
you are showing
yeah.
people that they can do it. That's what Michael Jordan did with basketball.
Absolutely.
And that's
You were brave
that's-
enough to go in and do it. And I'm like,
Right.
he was like brave because I felt scared. And then
Yeah.
he's like, courage and fear are the exact same feeling.
Yes,
it's
they
just
are.
what you do with it.
Right.
I'm like, oh,
And I totally agree. And I'm just the opposite with you as far as your kids. My daughter is that support for me, and my son isn't speaking to me. But I have to say that if I didn't have Al and my daughter supporting me through this, I would have never made it. But it's nice because they both do what they need to do to learn more about it.
Yeah.
My daughter she's a internet queen.
Junkie.
And she, yeah, junkie. And she learns so much. I mean, she's a smart girl,
Yes, she
period.
is.
But she learns so much from the internet. And, I mean, she doesn't have to go to school for it because she learns so much from the internet that she can do it, you know? And she supports me with everything I do, every decision I make. And Al, same thing. And when I was in my addiction still, my daughter wouldn't talk to me. She's like, unless you're sober, I can't do it. You know, and that was keeping herself safe. And I think that's really important that
oh yeah, that's
we
amazing.
have the family members that they're, I think that, like you were saying, if we didn't have our family members, we would probably relapse.
And not just
Because-
family members that are willing to educate themselves
Right.
to make you a whole healthy person.
Right. And like with my siblings, they all, you know, that none of them really made it, made a
An attempt or
attempt
priority.
to try to get to know what is going on with me.
Yeah.
They
Or
just
maybe try
tried
to get to know you
they just-
after, because you're somebody totally different.
They just
after.
tried to say,
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to do it, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. But they didn't try to get to know what that's all about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I struggled
Support
with that.
is huge.
But
Support is huge.
Yeah, support. If I didn't have Adriana's support, my daughter, and Al's support, I wouldn't have ever made it.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And I think that's why I'm so active in the recovery community, because I remember going to Odyssey House and then the next day being recovery days. And I was like, no way. No way are all these people in recovery.
Yeah.
There is no, I was dumbfounded. I was shocked. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Because what I had known was people are just dying from heroin.
Yeah.
Everybody I knew was dying off, you know?
Right.
Nobody, I didn't know anybody who was a heroin addict who had recovered. I didn't know anybody because it was the circle I was in. And then I go to recovery days and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
It does happen.
No way.
It is possible.
And same for the rally. I'm speaking at the Rally of Recovery this year. And I remember going there the first year, like, this kid, like, I was shocked that many people are in recovery. And so I find
amazing.
I have a great support system in the recovery community. Most of them are women, which is shocking to me because in your addiction, you don't trust women. I never trusted women.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't trust women at all. I didn't trust anybody,
even before
but
my addiction, I didn't
especially
trust
women, you know?
Yeah.
And now my circle of people are strong women.
Yeah.
You know, which is great.
A great feeling to have, too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I kind of was in the same spot because my dad died of a heroin overdose in 2009. And that was pretty much what sparked my addiction. And so I felt the same way. I had met so many people in recovery or in rehabs that were dying from heroin overdoses or that were, being dying and then were brought back to life, and either one. And so I was like, I wasn't very positive when it came to heroin users because I always thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And a lot of them did.
Right.
And still do, which is really unfortunate.
Which is, really sad. And but I do feel like I relate a lot to the things you've mentioned so far.
Yeah. And I like the recovery community because the group of people will be like, something's off with you. What's going on?
Yeah.
Where my family might not know that.
Or if they know it, they might not comfortable calling you out on it.
Or I'm putting on that face like I'm fine that day when really I'm like struggling that day.
Yes.
The people in the recovery community are going to call you on your crap.
Yep.
And they're going to be, and that's what I need. I need someone to constantly be like, are you sure that's the right decision?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with it? Then it's probably the wrong decision.
Right.
Well,
Feels good. It's probably not good.
Yeah, but I do want to say something about Red Barn. Like
Okay.
the Red Barn Academy and the Other Side Academy are amazing. And I love what they do. And the reason I love what they do is because when I was in Odyssey House, it wasn't a working program. So when I got out, I was sober, but I didn't know how to work.
Right.
I didn't know how to work. I didn't know how to find a job. And those two facilities, the Red Barn Academy and the Other Side Academy, they're working programs.
Right.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think that is why they have such a success rate.
Yeah.
Is because if you knew how to work, you would. And I didn't know how to work. I
Right.
knew before, but after my addiction, after my trauma and coming out of it, I didn't know how to get a good job. I didn't know how to get up, get dressed, and show up to work.
Right.
I didn't know how to do those things. I had
And I
lost
can
all
empathize with that
connection.
because that's what before I got into that addiction, I was a kick-ass employee. I had an accounting background, and so I worked in accounting for 17 years before any of this started getting bad. And I was there every day. I knew how to show up for it. And when I went through my addiction, it was short, but it messed me up enough to.
You lose that
It's been hard
confidence,
for me to get back into the hardworking mantra or brain.
And when you're
thoughts.
working, you're feeling better about yourself.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
getting
yeah.
paid. It's like a whole overall wellness
Yes.
Yeah.
when you can get a good job.
Yep.
Yeah, it's part
Or
of the recovery.
any job. Any
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Not even
Yeah.
a good job, but any job at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that oftentimes a lot of treatment centers don't focus on that piece.
Right.
So
I-
a huge
I'd have
shout
to
out to
agree
those
with that.
two places.
And I'll second
Pappian, the new one
and
that I'm working at right now,
Yeah.
they do that same thing because what they work with is they put you in sober living right off the bat, and after the 30 days, your 30-day buddy period, they expect you to go and get a job. So it's part of that. So what they do is you put you in day treatment and out of sober living. So every day they have a driver that picks you up and takes you to day treatment. But after that 30 days, they expect you to find a job. That's kind of 30 days is the settling period where they let you kind of get used to being out of prison or jail or wherever you were.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's what they expect because they want to teach you these skills while you're in rehab.
Yeah.
And so I
So
think
when you
that
get out, that you're a little
it
more
works
set up.
kind of the same way as the other two.
We had some volunteers from Papillon at the Clean Slate Summit doing fingerprints with us, and they rocked it. They worked so hard all day long. We did 154 people's fingerprints, and they were our top 2 volunteers sitting at the table all day long and kicked it out with us. So.
And who were they?
I don't remember their names, but they're from Papillon because I went there and I presented to their night crew. Manny Lopez hooked me up with that.
Manny's actually coming on our side.
Yeah. Manny and Misty.
Yeah.
Was that who it was?
Yeah. Him, and my daughter's dad used to run the street together. So I've seen the change that Manny has made, and it is amazing. Yeah, amazing. Like, recovery is possible. It really is possible.
It is, for sure. And I love to see people like that, that I saw before and after, and I get to...
We're excited over here.
We keep trying to take a break, but the ladies are in it, man, and they are focused. So, but ladies, let's take a quick commercial break right now, and then when we come back, yes, I'd like to touch on the Red Barn and Tosa just real quickly, but also what a huge voice you have in the recovery. I definitely want to touch base on that. So guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our guest, Destiny Garcia from Clean Slate, and my lovely wife, Jeananne. So ladies, thank you.
Hey guys.
Thank you for being here. Loved the whole part of the first part of the story of the show, talking about your journey. It's so cool that someone like the Salt Lake City mayor.
County.
Salt
Lake County.
County mayor took his hand out and said, here, let's help you. And I want to go more into that here in the second half of the show, but also right before we went to a commercial, we were talking about Tosa in the Red Barn. And I am now such a huge fan of both those places. because of how they go about it. Someone who is lost and is hurting and wants to get help, a lot of people out there don't have that means, right?
Right.
They don't have the opportunity because either their family has written them off, they've burned every bridge,
Yep.
they have no insurance. You can go to state-run programs, but you still have to have some type of insurance, right? If I'm not
Medicaid.
mistaken, like a Medicaid thing. And there are people out there that will help, help them get on it. I believe. I think there is.
Yeah.
They will.
However, for them to do what they do and to teach people skills that they didn't even realize that they had,
Right.
give them an opportunity to feel good about themselves. I mean, when I spoke with Nicholas and Anthony yesterday, they said, man, as we were going through the program and we started advancing and they started giving me this responsibility, it was like, you're giving me responsibility?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was huge for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We take advantage of it. I would think the majority of people take advantage of it. It's like, yeah, I freaking earned this, right?
Yeah.
They earned it too, but they are so grateful for the opportunity. They gave me some coupons and they said, hey, if you get a chance on your way out, stop by
So good.
Sticky Bird and have some food on us. And I did. It's like a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Red Barn. Went in there. I've walked into restaurants and fast food places before where people are friendly. But I tell you what, the atmosphere, and I'm not saying this just to frickin' say it.
Oh, I know.
It is true. I walked in there and I mean, you would have thought I was a celebrity and they didn't even know who I was. Okay?
Right.
Not saying I'm anyone special because I'm not. It's just, I walked in there and everyone's smiling and
happy.
And happy. And I said, gosh, yeah, what do you guys recommend? I said, I just came from touring your facility. And they're like, really? All of them perked up. Even the people in the back all turned around and was looking at who was talking. And I said, yeah, I was meeting with so-and-so and so-and-so. And they're like, oh my gosh. And then the guy who was rigging up the cash register and helping me with my order, he all of a sudden just, boom, starts telling me a story. Just like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, cool. And then my food comes. And he goes, well, hey, go over and enjoy your food. I hope you like them. And I got the tacos.
I always get those. They're so good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I haven't used that word for a long time, but it was phenomenal. They were so good. And I'm over there eating, and they're coming over. Adam comes over, and he starts talking to me. He starts telling me a little bit more of his story. And one of the guys who's in the back, he comes out. He's got his hairnet on. He's got his thing. And Adam introduces me to him, and he shakes my hand. And he's like, yeah, this is my second bout. I only made it six months before, and I walked out, and I didn't get very far. And I realized I needed to go back. But when you walk out, you start all over again. And I think he said he was in 8 months now. Adam has 2 more months to go. They were showing me the building for their sober living. What a beautiful place. I mean, I would like to move in there. It's nicer than where Jeanette and I live right now. Beautiful, beautiful place.
That's kind of what we said about the other side of Academies.
Right.
There, when we were toward their new facility that they got. What is that room that they called it? Anyway, for visitors and stuff like that. I don't can't remember what they called it, but it was like going to a hotel. You walk in there. It's one of those extended stay hotels. That's what it looks like. And I'm like, we should just rent this out instead of have our apartment.
Yeah, Dave, you want to help us out here?
Yeah, there was more room in that than there was our apartment. So
and again, I'm just very impressed because title doesn't matter. They don't give a crap what your past was. They don't give a crap who you were out on the streets.
Yeah.
You could have been a general in the frickin' army and they could care less.
Right.
It's who are you going to become? And what they teach, in my belief, needs to be taught in school.
Yeah.
Starting at a very early age, because you see who these people have transformed. And I don't want to say these people by disrespect, because that's not what I'm meaning. It's the people who have just gone through the program. I would hang with them every frickin' day of the week. And I know they would have my back. any day of the week.
Yeah, and they focus on whole person change and not just not using.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
it's the rebuilding of self.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and you're doing it, Destiny. One of the things too, sitting down talking to everybody, is their voice. They know. I'm starting to get emotional about it. They know their voice means everything. Mm-hmm. And I've learned from that because we have a platform here where we can help get people on like yourself, where we can come on and tell our stories. We have a platform where people can get their voice out there. And they need to be told. It needs to be heard.
Yeah.
It needs to be shared. And Adam, who was there talking with me, he goes, yeah, I've never been on a podcast. And he says, I really think I'd like to do that. And I'm like, please. I gave him my card. Please reach out to me. We'd love to have you come on and share your story because people need to hear it's possible. Mm-hmm. There are people out there in our community and it's growing. You mentioned it the first part of the show.
Exactly.
The recovery day. This past recovery day in 2022 beat the heck out of the first one we went to. And I'm looking around going, there were hundreds and hundreds of people out there who are all in recovery.
Happy, laughing people.
Yeah.
They're excited people.
They're loving
for
life,
sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They're loving life.
Because it's plain and simple. It's because before, their outlook on life was just bitter. I mean,
dark,
cold and dark, and and now their outlook in life is they're happy. It's warm. There's people all around
They're
them.
grateful.
They don't even need to know them, and they know that they got their back.
Yeah.
No matter what.
So such grateful people.
Yes.
You know, I have friends who have gone to different countries where not having things is pretty prevalent. Most of them don't. You know, sleeping on dirt floors and things like that. And they have told me stories that they are some of the most happiest people they've ever met. They are so grateful for everything that they have.
Because happiness isn't materialistic.
It's not materialistic, and I'm glad that you said that because it is so true. You, in your bio, you talked about you're passionate about living recovery loudly. I've only known you for a short time, and I see that you are actually doing that. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for getting out there, speaking about it, sharing your story. You are busting your butt to put your hand out to help as many people as possible. And I know you're not alone. There are so many other people out there doing the same thing. And I'm so grateful. And I know this sounds crazy. I am grateful for what I've gone through, and I'm grateful for Janan's addiction because it has led me here, and I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
I agree with you. I knew I could be somebody great, but I don't think I would be who I am today had I not gone through all that before.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but I think I was meant to be a drug addict so that I can be recovering and help other drug addicts.
Right.
I would not be where I am unless I went through that.
It does sound crazy, but it is true. You know, I feel like almost every addict I have ever met in recovery says the same thing.
Yeah.
Or feels the same way. Because it takes a while. In the beginning, the first time Al heard that at a meeting with me, he was like, what the hell is that guy's crazy? And I was feeling that way too the first few times I heard it. But the more I got sober, the more I realized, yes, if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't have that empathy for other people that are struggling and need to have my help.
It's why I speak so much on the Hill, and like I just spoke to Congress about the Fresh Start Act and the Clean Slate Act, which is a federal movement to try to get all the states a clean slate law. Because I hit the barriers. I've been discriminated against because of it, and I know what it's like, and people shouldn't have
yeah.
to deal with that. Had I not known what it's like, then my voice wouldn't be so loud about it, you know? And I have platforms now where I can speak on it, share my story, and hopefully try to change some of our laws, and even on a federal level as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what we can do over here on this side, but we would love to back that, because I am a firm believer of that now. And I have seen firsthand. I haven't gone through it. I've watched my wife go through it. I've listened and heard stories.
That's going through it too.
Well, I guess it is. Yeah, you're
Yeah, I'm
right.
still-
You know, and
Yeah.
and seeing, because it is affecting me.
Right.
It really is. And Anthony shared with me yesterday. He goes, Al, the United States is the only country where really we hold it over your head for the rest of your life. All the other countries, you do your time is done, clean
It's over
slate.
with.
You're done. You're
how it
over
should
with.
be.
And so you can get back on with your life. Now, of course, if you break the law again, okay, you're back in the system. However, with us here in the United States, man,
They charge you. They charge you money to get it off your record, which is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, right? And the show Jeanette and I did, the system is set up to fail. And it's like it's meant that way. And I'm just going to be straight up, and we talked about it in our live show yesterday with the lady we were interviewing out of Canada. You know, it's meant for this. It's moneymaker. Well, while someone's getting rich off of this, we're destroying people's lives, and it needs to stop. We need to give people that opportunity. The same thing happened to you happened with Jeanette. You get a job, background check, come back, you lose a job.
I mean, imagine how much stronger our economy would be if
Right.
people can get back into the workforce. How many people would transition off of public benefits because they have a good job and they're putting money back into the taxes
Right.
into our economy?
Right.
That's what they should be focusing on, instead of like, no, you can't because you committed a crime 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They should
While
be
you
focusing
were
on the future of our economy.
under the influence.
Yeah.
I
they
mean,
should be
it's-
focusing on those things.
It's crazy.
You know,
And it makes me sad because I'm not that person that I was when I was
Yeah.
using.
I don't
And
recognize
so, of
that
course,
person either
yeah.
anymore.
And so, of course, you know, I don't know how to explain it even. I feel like it shouldn't even be there because that was a totally different
Because
person.
you've
That
done your
wasn't
time,
me.
you've paid your
Right.
fine, you did everything that
You got
corporation has
yourself
asked
sober
you to
and-
do. You've done
yeah.
everything that they've asked.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, because I tell you what, and I said this when we went to that sober living open thing,
Oh, yeah.
where it was the protest. The people in the neighborhood was protesting the sober living coming in, and the mayor
And
gave
really,
me
they're probably the best neighbors.
right. Yes, and somebody else said that because they have a sober living right next
Yeah,
to them.
they
And
called the sober living place called a couple people from the other sober living that they had in West Jordan, and asked them to come to the
Yeah.
protest just to
Just
support
to
them.
say it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the mayor gave me an opportunity to get up and say something. And I do remember, I got pretty heated. And I remember saying, there ain't a one of you that's standing here in front of me that doesn't have skeletons in your closet.
Yeah, it's true.
And how would you like it if somebody held that over your head the rest of your life?
Yeah,
And I've had someone afterwards, someone come up and it's like, well, my skeletons are a little different than drugs and alcohol. You know what? It's still a freaking skeleton.
Well, if you think
Right,
about it,
right?
1 in 3 people in Utah have a criminal record, and 50% of children in Utah have one parent with a criminal record. That's the people that have been caught,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's not all the other skeletons that have never been caught before.
Right.
So nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah,
Right.
we all get lost in life,
Yeah.
right? I mean, life throws a lot of punches at us, and we do our best to weave and duck and bob, but man, we get hit. We get hit, and that's how life's supposed to be meant to live, right? It's our ups and downs, and it's so we can build and be stronger, and hopefully learn how to be better people. And again, everyone that I have met that's in the recovery realm, man, I would pick them to be on my team
Oh, yeah.
any day of the week. Any day of the week, because I know that if I got myself into trouble, and I needed blockers, they'd be the first ones jumping in front and blocking my way so I could go where I needed to go. And to me, those are amazing individuals. So again, thank you so much for being such a loud voice and a huge advocate.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to hear your journey and your path. And yeah.
It's nice I'm on this end and I'm able to tell it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you know, we would like to say even right now, Destiny, anything that we can do over here on our side to help you guys, please reach out to us. I mean, seriously, please reach out to us. I mean, if we have to have you on another show again, we've been talking about some ideas here in the studio about doing some series and things like that, which I think would be amazing. You know, we just got to find the time and figure out how we can go about it and do like these little 2 or 3 part series. And I just think it would be great because it gets people to understand.
And now you can reach more people because you're on Apple Podcast.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. That is so cool. I know I plastered that on social media the other day, and I got to say thank you to my daughter Megan. So thank you, sweetie. It took her about 4 days or so to make it happen because, believe me, Brad here in the studio has tried. He's worked his butt off trying to get us on there, and we just kept running into issues. And we're just a couple old dogs trying to learn this new social media stuff. And 4 days of her Googling things and that, all of a sudden there we are, and it's so cool.
Is this the same daughter that Googles all the treatment stuff?
No.
No, yeah.
So he has 2 daughters, and I have a daughter and a son.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so my daughter
They're smart these days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so-
and I don't want to leave out my other daughter because I mean she's incredible as well. It's just, they're just so smart.
We have 3 incredible girls.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, and
one incredible son that's being kind of a bum, But
well, like Destiny said
They all
earlier,
go-
it's his time.
Yeah.
It's his time.
Yeah.
What else would you like to share? Is there anything that just a
people ask me that question, I never
powerful
know.
message? Well, you know,
just one message that
you said something
just
here.
something you live by or something.
One main takeaway: use your voice, and I think that's
Yeah.
very huge.
Use your voice. I mean, it's so hard and dark when you're in those types of relationships. Like, I thought I was going to die. But you can get out of those relationships. There's lots of people who have gone through it and that can help you. But I think I would tell somebody who's in that relationship is just make a plan. Make a plan for when you're ready. Whether that's putting $20 away, hidden somewhere, a week, whatever that be, make a plan so that when you are ready, you can go and not ever go back.
Yeah.
And then share your story. Like tell the world. And I think what's happening here is that people are now starting to use their voices more, so the stigma is becoming less. And people need to keep talking about criminal records and substance misuse disorder and domestic violence and all the things that people didn't want to talk about before. Like, tell your story. Even if you don't think it's going to help you, every time I tell my story in a safe place, I heal more. And I'm able to tell more of my story the next time. I wasn't always this open. I was open, and then I told them in safe places. And then I was able to share a little more. Yeah. And then I was brave enough to share just a little bit more and a little bit more. And I mean, when I first told my story, it was always I was the victim. And now it's like, no, I was also the abuser too, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's what the reality is. But get comfortable with telling your story.
Yeah. If we
Don't pass up an opportunity.
There you go. Yeah.
In my opinion, people are dying. People are dying out there because they are going through this stuff and they don't know how to get out of it. The more we share how we got out of it, the more chance people can make it through.
Yeah, and be your own advocate.
Yes.
Nobody's going to advocate for you until you do it for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's really good advice. And I love that you said, be your voice, because I played the victim for a long time as well. And in a way, yes, I was a victim.
It's easy.
Oh yeah, it's very easy because it's like, it's okay. And we all want that, right? We all want that hug and that sympathy. However, sometimes we get stuck in it.
It's easy to say you're doing this wrong, but it's harder to say, what am I doing wrong too?
Exactly. And I just want to say right here and now, thank you to Dave DeRocher, because when we met a few weeks ago, I met at his office with him and Robin right before we were coming into the studio to do show, and Robin was just happened to be our guest co-host that day. And he's the one that said, Al, stop telling your wife's story and start telling your story. And it just so happened that day our guest didn't show, and I'm like, it's now. And it has felt so flippin' good to just finally come out, because I've only shared little tidbits of it, just what I was comfortable with.
Yeah,
And
he had to get
So
real
get
uncomfortable
uncomfortable,
to do
my
that.
friend.
Right.
Get
So-
uncomfortable.
And now I'm talking about it everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's out. It's out, and now I'm talking about it everywhere I go. And I have to say thank you to Dave and Robin for being who they are as individuals.
And it's your truth.
And it's my truth.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. Like, I can either get up and tell everybody that I'm a thief, a liar, and I was a drug addict, or just let people talk about me. Like, I'm going to get up and own my own
Either
truth.
way,
Own
yeah,
your
either way,
own truth.
somebody's going to talk
Yeah.
about you. And I also want to thank them for this, because I sat there for at least, I'd say, the last 2 years, at least, thinking, you have your own skeletons, and you choose to
Yeah.
keep them away from everybody. So
you
you
can
choose
tell mine?
to look like the good guy
Yeah.
all the time.
Guilty.
But for him to do that, for them to convince him to do that, it took so much off of me, feelings of guilt and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
absolutely.
because I know now that he accepts what he did too. He accepts himself as an addict like I am. It was always, you're the addict, you're the problem, he never did those
Yeah,
pointy
yeah.
things on purpose, but it was always that way.
Yeah.
And now that he's put himself out there, I can say we struggled through this together.
Yeah. And healing comes with that.
Yes.
Healing comes with that.
So much.
Yeah, and we still have a lot of growing to do.
We all do.
We still, and I think you've heard me even say before, Destiny, that there's no finish line when it comes to bettering yourself, and there's still a lot of growing that we're still going through growing pains.
Yeah.
We really are, because we had such dysfunction for how many years.
And that's comfortable. It becomes so comfortable.
Yeah, and it's time that it doesn't. I'm pretty sure she's getting the sick of it just as much as I'm getting sick of it, and things have got to change.
Well, I applaud you guys for putting it out there, talking about it, and letting it be in the open, because you're helping so many other couples.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I think that goes along with a lot of the deaths. Okay, there's the physical death that people are dying out there, but there's also an emotional death.
Yes.
People are getting divorced like it's nobody's business, and it needs to change.
Yeah.
We need to hold on to each other. We need to support each other, and we need to fight for what we love.
And it's
or
different
want.
stages. You have to learn how to love your partner in different stages of
Right.
life. And
Right.
this is a new stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Anything else you'd like to throw out there? And plus, please let people know how they can get a hold of you, because you guys do so many good things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing I want to talk about is there's a new bill called HB 323. It's the expungement fee waiver bill. What this bill would do, it would extend the old waiver out to 2028 for 5 years as opposed to 1 year. So that's a bill that Clean Slate Utah is watching really closely. So if you have taken advantage of expungement in the last year and not had to pay those fees, we are looking for speakers to go up and advocate for this bill and try to get it passed to a 5-year program. Representative Dunnigan is sponsoring this bill. And then if you have a criminal record, reach out to cleanslateutah.org. Fill out our intake form and we'll help you see if you qualify. And if you don't, we'll give you steps on how to keep your slate clean until you do qualify and give you some resources.
Okay, I love that. And again, whatever we can do here on this side to help spread the word, please let us know. We'll do whatever we can, even if I just have to put posts up on social media. To let people know, because again, the more that we help other people get their voice out, right, the better it's going to be, I think. Yeah. And I know you sent an email on it, and I think I responded to you saying, I'm not one that kind of fits in that category. However, if there's something I can do other than that, just let me know. Janan said something probably about a year ago or so, and she actually said, thank you for putting yourself in my world. And I was already in her world, not even realizing it too, right? Because I was keeping my skeletons in the closet. Well, now mine are out, and we just want to be able to do whatever we can to help the people who've already been in it longer than us. And again, we've got this awesome platform here. We got Resilience Talk Network that's backing us. Yeah, whatever we can do to help out.
Thank you.
So, Jan, is there anything else you'd like to share real quick before we sign off here?
No, I think
because I know Destiny's probably really wanting to go to work, right?
Yeah.
I love my job. I love that I could be exactly who I am. I could be the whole person at my job.
Yeah.
And I think employers don't
Got
realize
nothing to
that
hide.
it's the
that
whole
kind of
person
thing.
that
Yeah.
comes, you know?
Yeah.
So I love it.
Well, and that means everything, right? I mean, to love what you were doing, because it's not a job.
Yeah.
This is a passion, right? And that's how I'm looking at it. I mean, I'm still here. We're coming up on 2 years, and I still can't wait for now Wednesdays and Thursdays to show up because I cannot wait to get in the studio.
Yeah.
And anytime someone reaches out to me and invites me to their facility, I'm just like, oh, heck yeah. When, I'll make arrangements. I'll do whatever I need to do to be there because I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to meet more people, and it's just exciting. And again, I'm very, very grateful to be where I'm at right now. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yes, and hopefully we can have you on again. We've been having quite a few people coming back that just want to keep coming back on the show. So, love to have you. Guys, thank you. Thank you, ladies, for being here with us. Thank you for your vulnerability and your voice and everything you guys are doing out there in the community to help other people. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Guys, if you know anybody who could use some help, get a hold of Destiny at Clean Slate Utah, man. Reach out to them. These guys, they're the real deal, as you could hear. I mean, they are. This event that we just got done doing a week ago was incredible. Lots of people coming out. Lots of people getting fingerprinted. USARA, man, thank you guys too, because they work really close with you guys.
USARA was our biggest sponsor. Because of them, they were able to give out 30 free expungements.
That is so cool.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I planned on mentioning that the whole entire time. So USARA was our biggest sponsor.
Yeah, and they, again, everyone...
And they usually are, I mean, for people, not just you, but for other organizations. They are really huge at being a sponsor
huge
for people.
supporters.
Yes.
And we're at
Huge
USARA
supporters.
every Thursday from 9 to 5, screening people and doing fingerprints. So
Thank you for
walk
bringing
in and
that
see
up.
us if you want.
Yeah. And guys, if you have any questions, reach out to us on social media. I mean, seriously, if you missed something or you just need some information, reach out to us because I guarantee if we don't have it, we know someone that will, and we can help direct that. And thank you for all those who have reached out to me going, hey, I have a family member who's needing some help. Who would you recommend? I'm starting to get more and more messages and phone calls like that. And so thank you. Thank you for doing that. We're here to help any way that we can. Thank you to all our sponsors, all our listeners, all our guest co-hosts. Guys, I know our networking group will pass by the time this show goes out, but I do want to say, please mark your calendars down for Saturday, April 15th. We're going to be holding our second annual Healing Utah Success Summit at the Miller Free Enterprise building in Sandy, which is actually the Salt Lake Community College in Sandy. Tickets are only $35. I'm going to be posting the link here. Mallory just got done doing the link. You can also pay $12 if you want to get a box lunch. Mallory's going to be speaking. If you guys follow Mallory Roosh, she's the one that wrote the book Inspired to Recover. Very good speaker. Our very own Brad Neufeld here in the studio is going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking. We're going to have a lot of amazing things going on, so please mark your calendars. We'd love to have you come out and listen to some amazing stories and be inspired. That's what the whole thing is about, is being inspired. So we'll leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving one thing for everything.